Well, good morning, everybody. That's right. Hey, I'm back. Everything's good. Things are just a mess. You know what I've been through? It's the one and only.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
So, yeah, let's get ourselves started this morning. You can see we got Wayward Son Toby Jepson returns. And later on, I believe we might have ourselves a special guest. And we'll find out who that is in a bit. But first of all, I'm going to do this, Toby, like a game show. It's Toby Jepson. Hey!
Wow. Gosh, it's the first time my name's been in lights. First time. I can tell you, man. How you doing?
I should have put on my big voice for that.
Yeah, exactly. You should have an echo on it, shouldn't it? Really?
Oh, man. The things I'll do. This is what I'm going to do after the war is over.
Next time, pal. Next time.
And you were starting off with vacuuming this morning, and I told you I am not doing that in my space right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the life of a rock and roller. Vacuuming, cleaning up after the dog.
Well, Queen did it.
No. Well, we've all got to do it. We've all got to do it.
And I want to break free. Remember, he's out there.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Just thank God you didn't have the same outfit on. It's
well, not every day. Not every day.
That's my everyday. I'm doing a show. So,
yeah. Exactly.
Hey, I do. We've done a lightning round before, so I'm not going to do that. However, I do have a couple of things like this. I have to ask you about this.
Go on.
Because I just found this. I was not aware of what is this.
Oh yes, that's a Mr. Daltrey. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we were co-managed by Bill Kirbishley at the time, and Bill famously managed the Who.
Yeah.
And Roger was a fan, and that's actually Hammersmith Apollo or Hammersmith Odeon, as it was then called.
Okay.
And he came on stage with us, and we did My Generation and Won't Get Fooled Again.
Wow.
And me and him sang it together, sort of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, great. A really, really lovely bloke, actually. Really enjoyed his company. And he was always in the office whenever we were there, and always a good chat to him. Nice guy.
Wow. Yeah, he ended up being, he did acting jobs and things I love McVicker. I love that movie. He ended up being like a store owner, and I won't call it a horror. It was kind of a thriller show that was on cable, I think. And there was an episode with James Marsters, who played Spike in Buffy, and he was a musician who made a deal with the devil. Is basically what it was.
Okay.
And in that episode, Roger Daltrey played the shop owner, and it was and I think he had like artifacts or things like that, but he sold him something from the shop, and he signed away it was interesting. I can't remember the show. It was on Showtime, I think, maybe, or something like that.
Well, he's certainly done quite a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously the Who movies, Tommy specifically, he was great in, so
he did The Legacy, where I think he choked on a sandwich, like a chicken bone on a ham sandwich.
Wow.
I know.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember The Legacy? It was like 1979, 1980, right?
Yeah, vaguely, actually. Yeah, absolutely.
He was in that. Yeah, I think he played a rock star. It was where the family came to the house, and they were, somebody had, died, and they were all there for the will and all of that. And, wicked, weird things happened. Yeah.
Well, he's certainly a top chap, and he treated us well on that day that he came on stage with us. It was, as you might imagine, for a bunch of young lads who grew up with the Who, and the stories my dad used to tell me of him. My dad used to go and see the Who playing down in Southend in the south of England when they were just starting out. To end up playing on stage with him was something else.
That's incredible. Wow. I know that you and I saw your post about Roy Thomas Baker as well. I want to give the acknowledgement of his passing as well. We respect that and the work that he did, and it was just an amazing. As you posted such an amazing body of work with so many different kinds of bands.
Incredible. Years ago, I met Gus Dudgeon. Gus came round to we happened to be in the studio, the Little Angels, at the time we were recording, and
Yeah.
Gus came in the studio, and I had a long chat to him, and he was a lovely fellow, and I think at the time I didn't realise really the impact those guys had had. You know, I mean, you think about sort of Roy Thomas Baker started his first job working as a tape op at a little studio. And Gus Dudgeon encouraged him to sort of, you know, carry on, and you know, he was working with Elton John and David Bowie and Mark Bolan and you know, and all these incredible people.
Yeah,
On a very very early age, you know. And so I think, but the one overriding thing about all of this is that you cannot get to those heights. You can't be received and given the opportunities unless you actually have a talent. You know,
right.
There has to be an underlying ability, and I think a lot of it, from what I can gather with Roy Thomas Baker, was his perfectionism. He was one of the very few first producers that sort of focused in on the need to kind of get the detail right. And I think that's what responded. Our Queen responded so well to him because they were like that too. You know, but he kind of helped them guide through the processes.
Yeah.
I mean, years ago, I met an engineer who worked as a second tape op on Queen 2.
Wow.
Forget the guy's name now. And he said he was only there for a week. I think he was standing in for someone who was ill or something. And in that whole week, they recorded something like 72 different vocals for one chorus on one of the songs on Queen 2. So that's all we did. That's all we did. It was literally, no, do it again. It's out of tune. No, it's not tight enough. You know, let's get it right. You know, so that whole approach to the recording was the first time it'd ever really been done in lots of ways. You know, I think that kind of detail, that layering, that sort of complexity.
Yeah.
In many ways, it's quite astounding how a band like Queen, that was their start. You know, that's how they started.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, an extraordinary talent. I mean, my top 3 favorite records of all time, as you know, is Queen's A Night at the Opera. I mean, to me, it doesn't get any better than that.
Absolutely.
Still to this day, it gives me the same feeling of adoration for the music, for the technical ability of it all, but for the lyrical and the lyrical nature of it is what it always gets me every time. I hear something new in that record every time I listen to it, and I cannot tell you how many times I've listened to that record.
Same, and what a great blending of styles and I thought about you know, it's funny. I just watched the Go-Go's film, which was great. But there was a point at which Jane Wiedlin was talking about wanting to sing one of the songs, and they were like, "No," and I'm like, "Wow, I get it. I mean, I get it as a band and being in bands and talking to band members and watching bands. You know, I get it. But there again, I think, and I don't know what it sounded like when she was singing it. I wasn't there, so I don't know. They didn't play it, so. But you think about an album like Night at the Opera, and you think about the multiple voices that you hear. It's almost like when I listened to 905 not long ago by The Who, and I'm wait a minute. I think for the first freaking time, I realized that's John Entwistle singing that, because I never thought about it, and I'm like, wait, that's an Entwistle tune that he's singing, and so I love that fact. You have 39, you know, with Bryant. You've got, you know, Seaside Rendezvous. I mean, you have all these different pieces that are beautiful. They're great. They're amazing. And
no. And the other thing about what always I love about that record is that nobody ever questioned it, because, and then it's one thing that I've always found very frustrating in my life as a musician is that this whole thing about direction. I'm like, well, look. The direction of the music is the music that you make. It's that simple, and you shouldn't be cornered or you know, hemmed in by the concept that you've got to be one thing and one thing only. I've never believed that. I don't like rock. I've never enjoyed the concept of belonging to a movement or a bracketed idea of what music's supposed to be. And I think Queen have always been one of those bands that I follow because it's the same thing with David Bowie. The reason why I'm such a massive David Bowie fan is because it's the same sense of freedom about the music. It doesn't matter whether it's a rock track or whether it's a lilting ballad or whether it's a piece of music hall. It all works because here's the thing. It's all the same people playing the instrument. It's all the same people making that statement,
right?
But in a slightly different fashion, you know, with a different set of clothes on, you know. So, and I love that. To me, that's the greatest way that you can make music is unencumbered by a concept. You know, allow it to be what it is. Follow the trail. You know, go where it wants to go. You know.
Who do you think sometimes is okay? This is a real hard question, but who do you think it is at a certain point that would be helpful in the decision as to that it's not going to work? You know, in a couple of ways. Here's one. I'll give you two examples. One that it didn't work the same. They didn't do it this way, but the other one they did. When Bon Jovi was going to come out with Slippery When Wet, they brought in a bunch of young kids, bought a bunch of pizzas, and they're like, "What songs do you like?" And they just played them a bunch of the songs, and then they, boom, Slippery When Wet, huge, kabang. And it wasn't like they said beforehand, "Hey, do you like this song?" They did the songs, had them available, and said what ones are reaching out to you, right? Then you have Kiss, who after so many years come back and they do Psycho Circus, and they just schmutz a ballad on there as if that's what everybody wanted, and it was nowhere as good as Beth. It wasn't indicative of anything at the time. Yet before that, they'd done some great ballads, I believe. I like Kiss during the no makeup years. There's a lot of great stuff in there. Some of my all-time favorite stuff is in there. But, you know, they did great ballads then, and then they put this thing out. And I'm like, so I'm kind of wondering, I'm like, you know, is there any time where somebody outside of it would be able to go, no?
Well, I think that's the whole idea of that. Really, is what the producer's for. I mean,
right.
I think Roy Baker is a very good example of a sort of what we would call a fifth wheel. You know, outside of the band, being able to look from the distance inward and be able to help them make some decisions. Because I think production really is just a series of decisions. That's what it really comes down to. Right. Technical aspects of making records are pretty much the same for everybody. It just depends on how far and how deep you want to go. Absolutely. So I think the decision making is the key thing. And if the decision is one of the decisions is, well, we're not going to use that tune because we all believe, or we've been prompted to look at a piece of music and go, well, actually, it probably isn't up to standard. Then I think that's part of production. So I think it really depends on who you're working with. If you've got a belligerent band who are unwilling to listen to their producer or don't want to produce or believe that they're the producers, which is often a massive mistake in my experience, then you're never going to. Then often those bands wither on the vine because they're not listening to an outside influence. And but of course, it depends on who's in charge. I mean, if you're Paul McCartney in the Beatles, who is the greatest songwriter probably that's ever lived. And he's making decisions on behalf of the band because John Lennon can't be bothered, and George Harrison occasionally comes up with something that's amazing, of course, you know. But the reality is, it needs to be driven forward by somebody. Because half the problem with bands is that they're not democracies. They're never going to be democracies, and they shouldn't be, because you can't have 4 or 5 people all making decisions all for the good. That just waters it down. What you need is a visionary director, someone who can take the bull by the horns and go, okay, guys, I understand what this is all about. I think I've got a handle on this. Can we try this? And so it comes down to how you do it. Right. It depends on how you balance that sort of sense of purpose, that sense of vision against everyone else's feelings and needs. Because it is the thing. You know, managing expectations in a band is really one of the toughest things you can possibly do, because everybody's got massive expectations about how it's going to be, how it's going to go, how successful it's going to be. And so if you can have that combination of a great producer who can help you make those decisions, but also you've got somebody at the heart of the band who is magnanimous. You can't have someone who's dictating the terms, but you need a magnanimous dictator, someone who, can appreciate what the rest of the band are bringing and can utilize all their skills and bring it to bear on the greater good. So it's a tough call, and that's why so many bands fail, because there are a lot of egos involved, and it's not even ego. Actually, in fact, ego is the wrong word. It's we're all delicate. Our artistic vision is delicate. We've all got a view. We all know what we want to try. We've all got our own view of ourselves. And, some musicians aren't great at self-awareness. That's one of the big problems. But if you can find a way to operate within each other and understand and respect each other's talents and understand that possibly there's somebody at the top of it who's driving the project, then you've probably got a chance of achieving it. And then if you can then bring a great producer on board who can then help you make those tough decisions all the way down the line, then you've probably got a chance to really break out. Now look at somebody like Kiss with Bob Ezrin, for instance, and those early producers they work with, Yeah. And it's the same thing with, I often sort of think about Bob Clearmount and Jim Balance with Bryan Adams, those first 4 or 5 albums right up to Waking Up the Neighbours, there's no mystery as to why that worked. Great team, respected each other, knew that they needed a certain style and a certain approach to the songs, certain approach to the dynamic. And so that's why it works. And there are many examples of this, Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin being the forefront of that band, but he still needed Eddie Kramer as an engineer to record the band, but really it was Jimmy who was producing the band, so it's a very delicate proposition.
It is, and especially when you're dealing with, and it's the same with, and we're gonna get into this real quick too, because that's what I want to talk to you about, is about the movie thing. I think with anything with entertainment, with people who get into that, there is as you mentioned, there's a fragility there, and that's from where a lot of their passion comes. That's from where, and let's face it, performing, you're always wondering. It's a constant. Are they liking it? Do you get it? Am I doing something you don't like? Even if you're like, fuck all, and you're like, whatever, there's a point at which you're like, sometimes you're doing fuck all because you're just so, that's what takes over. That anger goes, well, I don't need you. Well, you kind of do. And if you don't act a twat, then we'll stick around. But if you don't, in that Go-Go's movie, they talk about going to see the Sex Pistols when they just kind of took a shit on the crowd out there in California in that show. And that's not good. It didn't last. And because those things just, well, they can't. But there was a fragility in the band where, and again, a self-awareness that you talked about. If you're on a human level with everybody, you'll take a moment to think about, if I'm in a band with Toby, I'm like, okay, how's Toby work? What's Toby working with? And what does he deal with? What kind of concerns do you have? Instead, you just go, well, I'm writing songs, so I should make more money, which I get. But at the same time, other members of the band have to think about, and that was the case with the Go-Go's, other members have to think about, well, Belinda brings a lot to the forefront of this band and really helps sell this band.
Oh, so yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, but I think the challenge for any band is to recognize where the power is, where the energy, where the positives are, because there's always loads of negatives in a band. It's difficult to travel with the same people. It's difficult to be in each other's pockets for 24/7 for weeks on end when we tour, and it's really difficult. And no one should have to stop that. Frankly, it's hard work. Yeah. But what you try to get to is you try to reach a baseline where you go, well, I know why we're here. And the reason why we're here is because the collective nature of what we do together is the thing that makes it work. And so I don't want to rock that boat. I will suck it up. I will, and sometimes, of course, we're only human. It overflows. And sometimes you have arguments and blah, blah, blah. And so I think it's a lifelong learning process of understanding the dynamics of a group of people that do this extraordinary, very unusual and odd career. I mean, it's very odd to spend your life traveling around with the same people, performing on stages all over the world. It's not normal. It really isn't, you know. But because it's incredibly demanding, and emotionally it's demanding, intellectually it's demanding, physically it's demanding, you know. And so it takes an awful lot of kind of experience to sort of really get your hands around that. And sadly, what happens is that an awful lot of bands don't get enough experience early. You know, it takes, you know, they end up falling out too early on in their career, and then you know, the Sex Pistols are a good example of that. I mean, the Sex Pistols are kind of a bit of an anomaly because they're one of the most important rock bands we've ever had in the entire world. You know, they kicked the doors off of what was happening before and changed the environment, and they are very important. But of course, they lasted one album and lasted about 3 years when it all came down to it. So it's but then so did Nirvana, and they changed the world. You know, so it's a kind of, it's a bit of an odd one, really. That it's, you know, because actually you can implode. You know, I think, but it just depends on what's imploding. If you're really important like Nirvana, if you've got Kurt Cobain or you've got, you know, John Lydon and those guys, you know, who are supremely intellectual, actually very intellectual people, very smart, you know, probably very heavily on the spectrum, you know, as well, you know, etc. But the reality is they've got a very unique voice, and they're bringing something very, very special to the world. And often those things are twice as bright, half as long, aren't they? You know.
Absolutely. Let's step real quick right into you guys. I'm happy for you guys. You're back on stage. You got the four of you guys with Wayward Sons out there doing gigs. You just finished up 6 gigs, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
This month, and I got some photos of you guys out there on the road. There's the great guitar toss. Hey, is it the same gentleman catching the guitar?
No, I've killed a couple. So
that's your Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
No, he combusted after I hit him.
They passed. You know, we've now got them strapped to the back of the van. No, actually, I've got a young lad called Matt who's a really brilliant kid, actually, and I had to teach him. He was completely nonplussed as to why I was doing it when I first started. I said, funny thing is, I didn't tell him at the first gig I was going to do it.
Oh no!
I forgot. I just completely forgot. I took the guitar off and I beckoned at him. He was at the side of the stage where the guitar village is. You know, the crowd are going nuts. And I took the guitar off and I just sort of like nodded at him like that. And he didn't know what the hell to do, you know. So I just lobbed it. I mean, it was a big stage, this particular one. I lobbed the guitar really high, and he actually did catch it. I mean, it was quite. But he was like, he came up to me afterwards, shaking, visibly shaking. What did you do that for? I didn't expect that. I said, I should have told you, man. That's part of my thing. But he's great. He's got very used to it now. We have a bit of a competition of how high we can get it in the roof and stuff like that.
Yeah, you really have to go in almost with a tape and go, okay, so I can. All right.
Mate, I've done it all of my life, all of my performing life. I've chucked my guitar at my roadie, and I've got so good at gauging that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally it goes awry, and it might twist and go sort of like horizontal, and it's like a spear heading towards them, sort of thing. But exactly. But in reality, I've got very good at knowing the weight of the guitar and how to chuck it and stuff, and it's it looks worse than it actually is. Really.
I could just imagine your backyard. You remodel a house, you get in it, you're doing it great. Now, what's next? I have to go out in the back and I have to get a chucking section for guitars, and there's just divots in the ground from where the headstock is gone. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. You have neighbors come over with their cards. Oh, I give that a 10. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I've broken a few. I had a roadie once when I was playing a gig in I think it was in northern Spain. I think it was at some big festival, and we had a new roadie just for those few shows that we did, and he just refused to even catch it, and he just hit the deck and broke the neck off. You know. But it was kind of like, it was just sort of. It almost happened in like slow motion, because I'm like, if someone's going to chuck a guitar at you, naturally you're going to try and catch it, aren't you? But he just stuck his hand in his pocket and he just landed on the floor in front of him. And he was really annoyed about it afterwards. What do you do that to? I said, that's part of my gig, man. That's what I do.
That's what I do.
Anyway, there we go.
And I can just see him looking at you and go, well, that's not what I do.
Exactly. Anyway. Broke one of my favourite guitars as well, but anyway.
Oh, man, you pull a Seinfeld. I don't think you do.
Anyway, there we go.
Oh, so here, yeah. So the Tivoli here.
No, that's a great venue. That's in North Wales. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. It's great to see Sam and you guys out. I mean, man, Phil and Nick. I mean, just great. Such a great show. If you know, if you're going to be new to Wayward Sons music, just do it. There's the Cat House. Unfortunately, I didn't have any really great shots. There weren't some great shots of Phil, but
never is, poor bugger, is there? Because people can't get close enough with the camera. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's, you know, we're a full-blooded rock band. It's great fun. It's joyous. You know, there's no po-faced nature about it at all. It's all very. We all like being on stage with each other. It's good fun. They're all great players.
Yeah.
And it's what I would call a traditional, for all the right reasons, guitar band. You know, we've talked about this before. You know, my favorite bands of all time are the Black Sabbaths. You know, but also, I mean, I like to think of it as sort of somewhere between Black Sabbath and Cheap Trick. That's my ultimate sort of, you know, thing.
Yeah.
You know? The melodic nature and songwriting nature of Cheap Trick, but the kind of muscle of Black Sabbath. Yeah.
Absolutely. What was I don't want to really even go into the normal thing. Well, were there any challenges getting back to the? I don't forget that. What if you want to go ahead? But
no. All it was is it's been an unusual few years. I mean,
right.
You know, we all know what happened with COVID. It's been an incredibly difficult task for a lot of bands to get back on the road and to sort of to be able to find their way back in, because in the UK, and I don't know what it's like in the US, but in the UK, a lot of venues have closed. A lot of promoters have gone to the wall. Record companies have tightened their belts. Blah blah.
Yeah.
And so even with somebody like me that's got a 40-year history, it doesn't make any difference. You've still got to sort of engage that audience and make them want to come out and see you play or buy some music. And so I've been very careful with a number of other people that are involved navigating that and trying to find the right way to do it. So, I mean, we haven't made a record for 3 years, and I don't know when we will make another record. We're just trying to figure that out at the moment. But last year, you know, we were supposed to do these dates in October, and I had a bad back injury, so I was laid up for
Right.
Yeah, so we had to postpone the shows and reschedule them till this April, and so that was another 6 months that went by without anything going on, you know. So it's been tough, you know. But the way I look at it is that, you know, you either do or you don't. You know, it's as simple as that. And I don't feel I've got anything to prove to anybody anymore. When I go on a stage and when I write a song these days, I do it largely for myself. Because I still feel I need to feel that I can do it, you know. But I've always been one for the audience. I've always wanted to engage the audience and the audience to feel the love coming off the stage and to feel that they can take part. I've never been sort of I've never been one of those artists that felt that the audience owed me something, you know, which I do think some artists, you get that impression that they think that the audience is looking to be there. Well, I don't think that.
Like Gene Simmons charging people to come and be his roadie?
I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? What was it, $25,000?
I mean, it's only crazy if
you pay the bloody money.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out, though, it's only crazy if nobody answers the call. Or is it crazy when somebody does answer the call?
Well, you know what? If people are willing to pay that money and want that experience, and I guess it's up to them. Because I mean, if you can afford to pay $20,000 or whatever it was to be his roadie, then maybe I don't know, maybe you're in a far better position than I am. I've never been one for that kind of stuff. I've never been one for meet and greets, paid meet and greets. I've never been for VIP packages. I think it takes the piss out of the audience.
Yeah.
An audience that have always been buying your material anyway, and have always been coming to your gigs anyway. So to then take them for even more money for something like that just does not flow with me at all.
Right.
I don't agree with it.
Yeah, I had a chance to meet up with Gene. He's been an idol of mine ever since I was a kid, just for multiple reasons that I've talked about a million times. But I had a chance to meet him, and I I didn't go over there. He was talking to a couple of gals, and I'm like, first of all, I am not going over there right now. He doesn't want to talk to me right now. And but also then I had the chance at Comic-Con, one of the Comic-Cons here, to meet him, but like we say, pay the money and get a picture and say hello, whatever. But I'm like, I'm not doing it because for crying out loud, I mean, haven't I already paid enough?
Oh, I know.
I've paid for all the records. I paid again when I got the remasters. Whatever.
What you've been is you've been a loyal fan from the start who have kept coming back and has kept that band going. I mean,
Right.
I always say without fans, there are no bands. And it's as simple as that. And I don't mean that to sound like I'm some sort of righteous dude. I'm not. But I'm a fan of rock and roll myself. I'm the one. I've also been one of those kids that's queued up in the rain to buy the Dio album or to buy or to send off what I used to have to do, clip a coupon out of the newspaper and send it in to get a ticket to go and see Rainbow or Black Sabbath, whoever it was.
Yeah.
So I know what that feeling is. I know that is an intense feeling of commitment, from you as a fan. Oh my God, they're my favorite band. They've got to be as good. I hope they're as good as I think they're going to be. And of course, then they blow you away. And so you stay, you keep buying, you and it's not. And you know what? It's nothing to do with the money with me. It's to do with the camaraderie. It's to do with the taking part in something, being part of a gang, being part of a movement, of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like to me as a young lad, through the 80s. I was a fan of Ronnie James Dio from when I first ever heard his voice, and I bought everything he ever did, and I went to see him play at Monster Rock Festival the first time Dio played in the UK. That commitment from a fan point of view, I know how that feels. And so woe betide me then demanding my fans more of them than they expect, which is really buy the music, go and see the gigs. If I charge them extra money to meet me and shake my hand, I should be shaking their hand and thanking them for still being there, frankly. And do you know what? We do meet and greets totally free. I've always done that. Even the Little Angels, when the Little Angels had a #1 record in the UK, we had free meet and greets, sometimes 40, 50, 60 people in a room after we'd done a gig. And we went around shaking every one of those people, those kids had, saying, thank you for being here. Because as far as I'm concerned, they've allowed me to be there.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I would look at it. And I've paid for meet and greets. I've been fortunate that I know some people and didn't have to do that. And then that's a part of doing the work, right? I mean, I'm doing the work, that I need to do. I've been, whatever. I promote, I support, I do, and it just comes down to sometimes, though, gee, it's priest. I mean, especially with prices the way they are now, it's tough.
No, I know exactly. Listen, if people are willing to do it and they're happy and they think they're getting something out of it, then fair dues, whatever. But it just isn't for me.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't feel comfortable with doing that at all. I think there's enough time and commitment given by the fans without doing all that.
Right.
That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, and I realize there's also there's ways that people come in and they have things signed and then they sell it. I get all of that. Yeah. And they're like, well, it's going to be worth a lot more now, so we'll make you pay for it so that when you get it and sell it, then you've had to pay to get it to sell it.
You know what, Stu? I just wish we'd take the money out of it.
Me too.
I just wish we'd stop talking about music and the arts in terms of how much it costs. Because you know what? If we know the price of everything, we often don't know the value of that thing we think it's got a cost attached to it. The value of music isn't in how much it costs. It's in how much it gives you in your life, and what it does to you, and how it makes you feel.
Absolutely.
What the message is, and how you can pay that energy forward, and all the rest of it.
Absolutely.
That to me is the biggest mistake that the industry makes. Is it's constantly banging on about how much things cost, and it's boring, frankly.
It is.
We need to get back to valuing the music for what it is, which is an art form that genuinely enhances people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And it's crazy. It is crazy. Just a real quick word about Muddy Brook. How did you guys get them on the tour with you guys?
Well, I heard them, several years ago now. They started to emerge, and I just thought, wow, they're interesting. They've got a slightly different take on things. It's slightly grungy. It's kind of got a kind of like an English grunge, a British grunge.
Sure.
It's got a kind of sort of British punk edge to it.
Yeah.
And also because there's two girls fronting it.
Yeah.
That, still sadly that's unusual. I wish it wasn't. I wish there was a lot more female rock artists. And I mean, I think Harriet's got a great voice. I think she's a really clever writer. She's
cool.
An emotional person, very emotional writer, very emotional person. They're lovely people, and they put on a great show. And
awesome.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's all that matters. It's immaterial that they are girls and they are ladies.
It is.
They are just fantastic artists.
Yeah, and at the same,
I wanted to support them.
Right. That's socially immaterial as far as what they're accomplishing. Fantastic.
Absolutely, and they're great.
People, that is just fantastic. I've said it a few times that I was really proud of KK Downing for taking Burning Witches out on the road with them. I think that's a great band. Now they have Courtney Cox from Iron Maiden's in the band, and they've got a new album coming, which is like their 6th album now, getting ready to come out. And then also Scorpions took out Thunder Mother. What a great band that is.
Right, yeah.
So I was really happy for them. And then when I saw this, I was like, that's fantastic. We have a band similar to that in a punk style here in the Midwest in the States called The Rumors. And they kick some ass too. I actually played a gig that they played. And it was it was watching them that I looked at my friend. I said, "Do you think we can come back next year with our own band?" He's like,
"Right,
oh yeah." So we did that. So good on you for doing that. I just I wanted to acknowledge them and tell people to check out Muddy Brook as well. MUDDI Brook.
Yeah.
And it is good stuff. I was checking it out last night. Really cool.
Well, I think they're about to release their first album, and Luke Morley from the British band Thunder. He produced the album, and I think
wow.
He's done a great job. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. Yeah. That's great. Now, the big deal is I want to talk to you about the writing of screenplays. I don't want to keep you too long. I mean, I know we've been chatting about all this great stuff we do. We have these brilliant chats, and thank God we didn't have that chat that we just had prior to starting the show, because I'd have been like, damn it, that was a show right there. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. You've written some screenplays. Is it still around 6?
I've got 6 completed feature scripts, and I've also got about 3 others that are in play. I'm co-writing a script with a friend at the moment. I've also got 3 others. So I've got 9. I've got 9 working scripts. Like I say, 6 of which have completed, 3 of which are in production.
Okay. And then can you elaborate just a skosh, whatever you can, on the 3 that are in production?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the long and short and tall of it is I never anticipated ever being a screenwriter, but a friend of mine who is a filmmaker, is a film producer in the UK, an independent film producer, very successful. He sort of said to me one day, "Have you ever thought about writing down your experiences? Have you ever thought about sort of like bringing those into a sort of a drama format?"
Cool.
And I sort of thought, well, no, I haven't. But why don't I give it a go, type of thing. So I tentatively just started messing around with a few ideas and sending sort of like, I guess what we would probably call now synopsizing ideas to Lionel. And eventually, over time, specifically through COVID, I wrote my first screenplay through COVID, really, and it's called Belly of the Beast.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's set in the music business, and it tells the story of the frontman of a rock band, the British rock band, who is essentially a serial killer.
Ooh.
But really, it's a kind of story of vengeance against all the people that sort of held him back, committed bad things to him over his life. So it's a kind of character study of abuse. It deals with every level of abuse that you can possibly imagine, whether it's physical, sexual, business abuse. And because it's set in the music industry, and that industry, as we know, is rife with an awful lot of these problems, it was a good way of trying to sort of tell a story about the difficulties that go on behind the closed doors in the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to dramatize it. I didn't want it to be this dry exploration, else it would have ended up being a documentary. So I thought,
Right.
well, because I'm a sort of a huge fan of filmmaking and a big fan of storytelling, I then sort of wrapped it around this concept that what if the lead singer of a major rock band, a world famous rock band, was actually a serial killer, which I thought was quite a cool concept. And so we've been producing that for a while now. It's been in production for about 3 years. It's gathering pace, but the film industry at an independent level is glacial. It takes such a long time for things to come together. But on top of that, I've written a screenplay called Small Talk, which is about my experiences as a kid at school and becoming a musician, and that's gathering pace at the moment. That's now in production, so we're now discussing that with various funding bodies and financiers and a couple of other people to get that before the cameras, hopefully next year. But the headline news is that I am directing my first debut feature film in November this year. From a spec script I got asked to write by a small production company in the UK. It's low budget, but it will be made. I am going to direct it. I've written the screenplay, and that's called 12 Trees, and that's about two hitmen from Yorkshire traveling going south in England to chasing a thief who's stolen something. So it's quite a thing. I'm turning into a film director, a screenwriter.
Wow.
Surprising to me, probably more so than anybody else, really.
Yeah.
But that's the way it's rolled. And you know, it's gathering pace. All of these things take a long time. I mean, like I said, the movie industry it's worse than the music industry completely in terms of the amount of time things take to actually come to fruition. Mm-hmm. But I am patient. I've learned patience over my life. And
thank God, because there are a lot of people to talk. Like you said, there's a difference between the music, getting the music done and getting a movie done. Because there's a lot more people, and I'm not saying this on experience. I'm just saying this because I'm like, logically, you have to think there's a ton of people you got to talk to get this done.
Oh, it's extraordinary. I mean, with Belly of the Beast, the first movie I mentioned, we have got one of the UK's most important independent film directors, film producers that's now involved in the production company, with our production company, because we set up a production company to produce the movie. And the levels of experience involved in that guy and the people that he's now getting involved with is extraordinary. And all the HODs, heads of department that we're talking to on all of these projects, these are all very seriously professional people, but there are tons of them. I mean, and even with the independent film we're shooting at the end of the year, there's likely to be 40 or 50 people involved in that production. And that's nothing in comparison to like shooting a film in Hollywood. There's sometimes thousands of people involved in making major Hollywood films. So it's all a question of scale. Yeah. We're shooting independent, and so we have to kind of keep the personnel to a minimum. But that minimum is still relatively extravagant. You are talking about moving 50 people around, feeding 50 people, paying 50 people's wages. Right. Etc. So that's why the budgets are so enormous. I mean, even with an independent movie that's on a low budget, we're looking at knocking on towards £500,000 just to produce our small independent film at the end of this year, which is a small budget. But for an independent film, believe me, that's still pretty heavyweight. So you kind of, it's all a question of how dynamics, how you bring the whole thing together. What amount of personnel you're involving, the size of the film. Part of the key things about being a screenwriter, if you write to, specifically with my independent film, we had to make that. I wanted to write something that was containable, something that we could control. A road movie, so a lot of the action takes place with two people in a car. So that's relatively cheap to film. So all of these things come to bear on the project. I mean, I've got another project which I wrote, which is being produced in Australia at the end of the year, which is a major. I mean, Lionsgate are going to be putting that out.
Wow!
I only wrote that one. I was just literally the screenwriter. I shan't be involved in the physical production of that.
Sure, right.
But that's going before the cameras. That's $15 million. Which is again relatively a small budget for a Hollywood film. But it's eye-watering amounts of money to me. So things are really happening from the point of view. I mean, I think ultimately my future is in screenwriting, but I'm hoping that I can end up directing my own films as and when I can afford to do them, and we can find partners to join us with that. So yeah, it's exciting.
Well, let me. Do you mind if I throw? Do you mind if I throw in a little something for another UK band?
Not at all.
I think I may have mentioned Blitz to you. That's been on the Stuart Gordon's been on the show multiple times.
Oh yes.
And they have a new album that's coming. I did a review of it and ahead of time. And oddly enough, like you guys, Wayward Sons, with everything, they've got a comic book that's going to be coming with it.
Great.
And it's brilliant artwork so far. I've been seeing it, and it's coming along really well. And they have a couple of songs on there that are perfect for credits. Not that there isn't a gazillion songs out there to choose from, and not everybody's talking to you, Toby, about it, but if I could just throw a dart in the board about a band and a song, I'll get you a couple of songs. I'll talk to Stuart and I just think when I have these ideas, when I hear it, it's like I told my son, you are a good photographer. You have an eye. I don't. Because I know this. I look at my pictures and I'm like, that's not it. But when I see it, I know it.
You know it, yeah.
And I'm like, these two songs, yep, right there. Right during the credits, right there. And then moving into the score. I can see it, I can hear it. Anyway. But just
I'll check it out. I mean, I'm all for what I love about the film industry is that it's a great place for talented young people to forge a career. For instance, we're populating our crew in November with a lot of interns. So our HOTs will be seriously professional people who've done lots of films before, but we're going to populate on purpose all of our sort of staff members, if you like, all the department staff, with absolutely with. I'm
ready, whatever.
With interns, with young people, because as far as I'm concerned, that's where the energy lies. I mean, I'm an old fart now. I mean, I'm an experienced old fart. But
Amen.
I like having the energy around me. So it's the same thing with the music. If Blitz have got a great song and it works, then we're always looking. I'll always look for that sort of thing. I'm not sort of. Because we wouldn't have the money. There's never going to be the money around in making a movie like what we're going to make to be able to sort of, to sink a major piece of work. Anyway, so you're always looking for those. I'll be using my own music as well, of course. So
and that's what else because I was thinking about. Okay, why can't I say his Fargan name? Once, the movie Once. Why can't I say his name?
Oh, the guy that starred in that?
Yeah.
I can't remember now. I know the movie.
Crime. He was in The Commitments. Anyway, I know this. I even helped him on stage when he was here. And he'd probably be upset that I can't think of his name. So stupid. Anyway, that's what happens. But no, that was the case. He wrote all those songs for that movie, and then the money got pulled from the budget, and their star went with it. And so he was like, well, the director's like, well, can you do it? I mean, you could do this. You wrote all the songs anyway.
Yeah.
So, why not? And he did it. And wow, what a blockbuster. And they won the Academy Award for the song.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think, what I'm hoping with this part of my career now is that the difference between the person I am now and the person I was obviously when I was a youngster starting out in the music industry is a world of difference. It's 40 years of experience. And I think the thing about telling stories, I realized what it was is that the reason why I'm getting on so great as a screenwriter is that really it's not much different from writing a song. The whole idea of writing a song is get your point across in two verses and a chorus. You know what I mean? You've got to be able to tell that story very quickly and very succinctly, make an impression, give a vibe about what it's all about, and give. As far as I'm concerned, the lyrics are really, really for me, the most important aspect of a song. It's what you're talking about. It's what it's about. And so really, screenwriting is a bit like being a novelist, but as if you're a copywriter. So you've got to be able to write short, sharp, descriptive terminology, so people can understand what's going on and get it quickly. And I think as a lyricist, that's what I'm doing. I've done all my life. I've written 600 songs, and that's all I've ever done is write. How do I get this story across as quickly as possible and make the point as easy as understandable as possible? So it doesn't feel much different to that to me. It feels in fact very similar.
Yeah, and I mean, see, because I'm getting ready to move on with some different projects and things that I feel I have an affinity for, and I'm hoping that all works out. I want to be that in that production mode like you have been with what you do, and it's in here. Did you feel that way for a long time, that before you started writing your screenplays, you're like, it's in here? I don't know about that, actually. It was a weird one because, like I say, I kind of got coerced into writing. Really, I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't something I always wanted to do. I mean, I made films when I was a kid. I made a lot of Super 8 films, and I've always wanted to be. I mean, actually, if I wanted to be in the film industry when I first started out. I mean, I was going to go to drama college. Well, not drama. I was going to go to film school actually and just learn. I wanted to be a cinematographer, but really the music happened first. And so, the drive and the want to be in the film industry and my love of films, that's always been there. But the odd thing was, being in a band, you get to actually involve yourself in the film industry, because back in the late 1980s, early 90s, music videos were a huge part of what we did, and they were very expensive. And so we worked with a lot of big directors. We shot our first ever proper music video in California, with a proper film director and a major crew. We went out to the desert and shot it out there, and it was for Kicking Up Dust.
Kicking Up Dust, I love it. Love that video.
That was a major film crew. We had Winnebagos, trucks, lights. I mean, it was everything I could have ever dreamed of.
Not to mention, if you don't mind, there was a little hint of what do I want to say? The future in that, where you said the original Wayward Son.
Oh, I know.
I always love thinking about that.
Oh no, without doubt, and that was because of my love of Kansas, that song by Kansas, of course, so it's I mean, it's all full circle. But so you get involved in the film industry by default when you're in a band. I mean, even through Wayward Sons, as you know, I've directed all of the music videos for Ghosts Are Yet to Come, and they were all linked as a story, the zombie stuff, and the same with the clown stuff for the second record. And same for the stuff that we did with the animation stuff on the third album. So they were all my ideas. I wrote all those, and so I was kind of incrementally starting to do it anyway. It became a thing, and then it just kind of blossomed into. And I think actually that's the right way for it to have worked. I think if I'd kind of forced myself into it and decided I was going to be a screenwriter, it probably wouldn't have happened. So I just think you've got to. It's like anything when you try something new. You've got to really feel it. You've got to really want it. You've got to have a natural affinity for it, and it's got to feel like an endeavor. I mean, I think with writing, I write every day now, and there's never a day goes by when I'm not writing something or doing a rewrite or whatever. And just like being a musician, you've got to do it every day to get good at it. You've got to be disciplined. You have to. It's like Stephen King says, you have to write every day. You can't call yourself a writer unless you are writing.
Right. Yeah. It's like being a chef. If you have this want to do that, and you're not cooking something every day or pushing the limit on how is that? Oh, that came out like crap. What can I do better?
Exactly.
It's anything. It's how could I build this better? How could I do whatever?
You got to put the hard work in. I mean, writing is a tough job, and it's not writing. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's not writing. It's rewriting. What you're really doing is your first draft is usually your splurge, what we would call our sort of vomit draft.
Yep.
And then really, the next sort of 4 or 5 iterations of that script are you rewriting that script and changing it, because all you're doing is filling in the holes, filling in the problems.
Absolutely.
Problems. and that's where the skill lies, really.
Yeah. It comes down to well, like you say, you just have to stay in the game. It's part of being in the game and proving to not only yourself but to others who are watching you and what you're doing and what you're telling them, that it's you care about it. You want to do it.
Well, absolutely, and I'm still in that prove it mode. I mean, me making a movie, shooting my debut film this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal because it's at the end of the day that if I get it right, and I think the team I've got around me will, I'm not making any bones about this, Stu. This is a first-time director. This is for my own script. It's a big risk, I'm not pretending that I know what I'm doing. This is going to be the first time I'm going to be on a set for a feature film. I've been in a lot of feature films, as you know. I've been around a lot of filmmakers. I've watched everyone how they behave. It doesn't feel that much different from making a record, right? Slightly more extended. So it's a big deal. So I have to prove myself as a filmmaker. You can't call yourself a filmmaker unless you make a film, So
right.
Same thing as making a record,
And right or wrong, you're doing it.
Exactly. And you know what? I will get it. I know I'll probably get loads of it wrong. I mean, I've shot 2 or 3 shorts, one of which was for what we call a POC, a proof of concept for the
gotcha.
Belly of the Beast film that we're making, and I directed that. We had a week. We built sets. We went on location, and I thought I was doing all right at the time. But when we got back in the edit suite, I realised what a load of mistakes I'd made, and I didn't shoot enough footage, and we spent too long on certain aspects of it, and so it was a huge learning curve,
Yeah.
But that's life. Unless you chuck yourself in the deep end, you never know whether you can sink or you're going to swim.
Right. Yeah. It gets tough when like you said, when you get what you've gotten and you're like, oh well, is that? I mean, can I make anything okay? So everything that I did, can I at least make it work, or am I going to have to just go and do it again?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, but of course, with filmmaking being so expensive, and it is,
Right.
you have very little chat. I mean, especially with independent filmmaking, you've got very little chance to do what we will call pickups. Once on a major film, you can go do pickups. Oh, we've forgotten that shot. We'll go back out and shoot it again. We're not going to have that opportunity. So this is going to be an opportunity. This is going to be an exercise in organization, in pragmatism. It's going to be the extensive shot list. I'm going to be working with my DP to make sure that we have an absolute plan that's watertight about what we need for each scene, etc. So I'm really looking forward to it. I know I am very organized. I've always been a very organized person, especially when it comes to creative stuff. I do think into the corners, if you know what I mean. I do know the details I need. So I'm looking forward to going on it.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. I'm really happy for you, and I'd really be excited if I could be there and do that with you. I don't know.
Oh, if you can get yourself over in November when we're shooting, man, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I'd be done with the job by then, and I could move on and do whatever. But I'll look into it and see. Okay. I just got to find out somebody over there I could shack up with.
Well, who could that be? Maybe.
Well, I could hang out in the backyard where you're tossing the guitars, and
well, you'd have a good chance of catching them.
I am smashing at doing dishes, and I do some cooking, but whatever else you need, I'm a good cleanup.
Mate, listen, it's all hands. It's going to be all hands to the pump. Anyone who's willing, and because what I want enthusiastic people that get the idea of the concept of the film and are excited to be part of it. That's a big part of the reason why I want to do it. It's a collective, collaborative, hugely complicated process, but that is the exciting bit. That's the to make a movie that makes sense and people will enjoy watching, and get something out of. That's the goal. That's what we want.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm trying to get a hold of Billy. That somebody I wanted to introduce you to that I had on the show recently is Billy Blair. He's been in many movies.
Okay.
Including one of my favorites that I talked to him about is Alita Battle Angel. I'm checking in with him, though, to see if he was available to come on, but I haven't heard anything at the moment. So
that's Robert Rodriguez directed that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
good film, good movie actually. I like that film.
Yeah, people are probably going to get sick of me talking about it, but I love the fact that Cameron had that movie in his in his lineup when he did the first Avatar movie, and put it on the shelf to do Avatar, and then when he decided he'd be doing those forever, then he and Rodriguez had a conversation. He goes, "Would you like to do that?" Because Rodriguez was into the manga, so he was like, "I love how you do movies, and you love the character, but
Yeah.
And it's I will ask you this while I'm trying to get real quick while I'm trying to get a hold of him, but have you ever read any of Greg Kinn's stuff? His books?
What? Namely, one of his novels.
Horror Show is one of them, and he's got he has like, well, I mean, they're out there. Of course, he just passed, but he has like 5 or 6 novels out there that were music, kind of music related, but have a skew to them.
I would be very interested. I don't know him, but I would be very interested to read it. I mean, if you want to send me a link at some point, I'd love to check him out without a doubt. Yeah,
because in the 80s he was huge. Jeopardy and all the songs that he had, Our Love's in Jeopardy, and what was the other one? They Don't Write Them Like That Anymore. Was that's great stuff. But anyway, I didn't know that he had done books and novels, and then I found out about that, and I got 2 of them, and then he had another one that came out too. So, well, I don't think I'm hearing back from him right now, but I'll send you some information. He even has a band too that Love Sick Drug that I interviewed him for them recently. They have there's a lot of these cool bands that are out there that have like that punk edge too. It's good straight ahead rock and a lot of fun, and it's really cool. But
sounds great. I mean, it's interesting that you talk about these guys that he's got a band as well and he's an actor. I think these days you've got to have a number of irons and a number of fires. That's the point, I think.
Right. And how many times have we heard about kind of in the opposite direction, where you're like, oh, they play music too.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves and
totally.
Bacon and all those people that do that. It's really kind of interesting. So do you guys have any more shows that you're going to do before we get going here? I'll let you get rolling.
Yes, we've got some summer stuff. We've got a summer festival at a castle called Chepstow Castle. We're doing that with Terrorvision, another British band called Terrorvision. And we've got some dates at the end of the year. We're about to be confirmed on Rockstock, which is Planet Rocks, which I'm a DJ on. They have like a sort of winter. I think it's called Rockstock. It's the end of November.
Okay.
We'll probably put a few dates around that. It's steady as we go at the moment, because I need to sort of properly sit down with the guys and figure out how we're going to go forward and what we want to do before we make any decisions. But we're keeping our hand in.
It's definitely worthwhile. I always talk about it with bands, man. Business meetings. That's all you really need. If I just let you know ahead of time, let's all just talk about it and figure it out.
Exactly.
And then it all works out great. And again, it keeps you all friends. It keeps you all plugged in. And when you do get together, like you did recently, I can only just imagine how the energy was.
Oh, it was great fun. Great fun.
Being at one of those shows, because I know what it was like before when you guys were recording the records and being there, and how great that show was. However, I also know, like, I'm getting ready to get back with my band and do stuff after I've done all this renovation, and I've been out of sorts for a while, and now I just got to get back to it. So, but hey, I really appreciate it. I'm hoping I'll get you and Billy hooked up together, and we'll get this thing worked out and see if there's any questions he might have for you and things like that.
Magic, mate. No problem at all. All good.
Yeah, he's got a brand new movie that's going to be premiering down in. They're going to do a big thing down there in Texas for a movie. It's coming called Tonic. So he's been working on that.
Oh, very good. Great.
Yeah, it should be great, dude. I'll tell you what, it's still always an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. It's great to have struck up this great friendship after being a fan for so many years, and seriously, great talking with you, man.
Pleasure's always mine. I really appreciate it, Stu. Thanks, and thanks for all those that watched.
Absolutely, and hey, I'll start negotiations with. I'll have a band meeting with my wife, and talk about November.
Absolutely.
That's what. Hey, I could come over there and work for my birthday.
You'd be more than welcome.
Oh man, that'd be great. That'd be great. All right, my friend.
All right,
have
pal.
a great one, and we will talk with you soon. And if you got just a second, I'll talk to you backstage for a second, and then we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.
See you later. Cheerio.